Welcome to the second episode of All About the Experiences. I had so much fun last week with Dr. Pamela Hardy-Shepherd that I decided to do it again. I want to thank Dr. Hardy-Shepherd for being my inaugural guest and sharing so many wonderful insights with us. The launch of the podcast was a wonderful experience, and I have to tell you, my family and friends, they surprised me with a podcast launch party, complete with branded t-shirts, which, by the way, will be available on my website, allabouttheexperiences.com. I had all my favorite foods, some refreshments and spirits, if you will, balloons and flowers, and I was just utterly surprised and very appreciative. Most importantly, the acknowledgement that I received that I'm actually doing something great and something that they're all interested in that really hit home and made me feel wonderful. I definitely would be remiss if I did not hand out special thank yous, one being to Dominic Rogers, Sharice and George Whittington, Ashley Rogers, Life Wade, Justin Rogers, and my very own little sister, Megan Umrongrong. Had to get those shouts out. That's my tribe there. They look out for me. You all made the launch so very special, and the celebration not only encompassed the podcast, but also my late mother, Jean Lindsay's birthday. She would have been 77, and also Juneteenth. So there was a lot to celebrate that day. Well, let's get to the meat and potatoes of things, as my grandmother used to say. Today's guest has mentored me as I started this podcast and created a space for me, even on his platform, for me to launch my brand, All About the Experiences. He is an entrepreneur, a top-rated radio host, a hospitality consultant, just to name a few of his titles and talents, but it goes far beyond there. He has not only given me great advice about branding and digital marketing, we have also partnered together in the past and currently. We've partnered together on numerous corporate events, and his company is definitely the source that you want to go to for site selection. Well, he is able to do all of this because he has well over 25 years of experience in the hospitality industry, beginning with his career with Marriott International. And believe it or not, he started there as a housekeeping manager, just to ultimately work his way up in the hospitality industry to director of sales and marketing. So this man has a lot of good knowledge there, knowledge base, as well as experience. He now consults in the hotel and meeting space and is the CEO of his own company, Russell of Hotels. So without further delay, I am pleased and honored to welcome Russell Edmond. Russell, welcome to my hot seat.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. I do appreciate you welcoming me on the show. I was just listening to all that stuff, but you missed one thing. I was a GM too, but that's okay. But that's all right. We'll talk about that later. But I do appreciate you bringing me on the show. I mean, we've worked together for some years now, doing meetings and things like that. So, and to see you doing this podcast, amongst the other things that you do is definitely good to see. Definitely something we need more of. And I couldn't think of any place I'd rather be right now on Thursday afternoon at 1:00 than doing this show.
Why, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And welcome to All About the Experiences. Russell, I like to start off with sharing with the listeners kind of how I've met my guest. And I'm going to let you lead off in that because I like to hear your perspective on how we met.
I don't remember. You're Cheryl, right? No, I'm joking. I believe we met, and don't, please, I know it's Smart Meetings. I know it was in Phoenix, Scottsdale, but I can't remember the hotel. I mean, that's the
Biltmore.
It's the Biltmore. Okay, it's the Biltmore. I don't know why I keep getting between the Phoenician and the Biltmore. I don't know why, and I didn't want to say the wrong thing, but it was definitely Biltmore.
Absolutely.
Beautiful hotel. Historical, beautiful hotel. But anyway, we met at Smart Meetings. So this was several years ago, probably about 3 years ago now. I
Almost
had
4
never,
years ago now.
almost 4 years ago,
Yes.
had never met you before. That was my first smart meetings, I believe.
Mine as well.
And okay, okay. And I just remember, meeting this, someone that was, you didn't come off as being, not experienced, anything like that. I mean, it's just someone, you had a lot of energy, a lot of new energy, a lot of good energy that, you kind of look, I kind of look at people, and that's the kind of energy that you want to see, and people that are eager to learn. And that was you. I mean, you were all of that. And as I got to know you, I could tell that, you were in it for the long haul. You weren't just someone that was just basically passing through, so to speak. I mean, you wanted to learn, you listened. Not that I was sharing a lot of information, but you'll learn a lot from just watching and listening to people, right? When you start talking and you're trying to dominate conversations, that's when you don't learn anything. So I mean, that's one thing that I saw about you, that you listen. You knew how to work a room already, which is great, because at those events it's all about networking and getting to know as many people as you can, and letting people know what you do and your story and things like that. So you were definitely on point with that. And like I said, I just sat back and watched, as I was doing, my networking as well. But we always ended up, speaking together as well. So, but no, it was a great experience meeting you. And then, like I said, from that point on, we kept in touch and moved on, because that's important. I mean, a lot of people, when you do networking, you always want to, when you go back home or go back to your office, you always want to keep those relationships going. And that's one thing that I think one thing I've always done, but it kind of ticks me off that a lot of people don't do that. I mean, we go and as a ex-hotelier, right, as a director of sales and marketing, someone that had a team of people that go to these types of events, and when they come back, well, who'd you meet? What'd you do? Blah blah blah. Hopefully they would tell me that they met this person, because at the end of the day, it's all about your ROI, right? Return on
Absolutely.
investment and things like that. So I need to make sure that they were doing that. They're going out and meeting these people, but not just meeting those people initially. You were keeping that conversation going, because you never know when they're going to need you or when you're going to need them. And that's the kind of thing. So it's all about the relationship. It's about the experience first, but it's all about the relationship, because that's what turns, just a relationship into business, into money, into that ROI is what we're looking for. So, and that's one thing about you. I mean, I said that to say this: you kept in touch. We both, kept in touch. We both had conversations, because we never know where you're going to go from here, right? I could have gone back to the hotel space and things like that. So, I mean, it's just good. I mean, it's just good that's how you do things. You keep in touch. And because, like I said, you never know who you're going to be working with next.
Absolutely. And, I would have to piggyback on that. When you think about those events and those opportunities that we have to connect, not only I'll speak from my side as an event planner, and being able to do site visits and connect with so many people like yourself who are obviously veterans in this, and all the ins and outs. And so the questions that I did have to ask, you readily had an answer for me. And I recognized that as I could come to you for a source of not only information, but also inspiration. And look at this, look where we're at now.
You're right.
Well,
Look at
I
us.
was going to ask you what your experience was like meeting me, because I was almost certain it was a wonderful experience, but you already covered that. So
Yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that was good. It was definitely good. Definitely good.
thank you. Russell and I have become really good friends over this last 4 years, and I come to depend on him not only for some great advice in the hospitality industry, and he has I always tell him he has a second job as a stand-up comedian, but I'm sure you all will see that as we go along, for sure. You mentioned, and I do want to apologize for not failing to mention that you were also a GM, but tell me, how did you get your start in the hospitality industry?
Oh God. Well, it all started a long time ago, about 100 years ago. But yeah, I went to I went to Cal Poly Pomona,
Okay.
which is Southern California for people, listening outside of California. It's in Southern California, about 30 miles east of Los Angeles. Just take that as a reference point. So I went there and they had a hospitality program, but not knowing what I wanted to do when I went to that school. I mean, I went to another school before I got to Cal Poly, and I was a business major. But not knowing what I really wanted to do, I started taking classes in other majors. And one of the majors I took the class in was, it was called HRT then, Hotel, Restaurant, and Travel Management. That's what it was called then. It was under the School of Business. So I took one or two classes, and I remember the first class I took, it was a professor, I can't remember his name now, McLean. His name was Jim McLean. That's right, Professor Jim McLean. And he had a background with working with McDonald's. And he taught, I remember him, probably the first two sessions that I took with him, he was talking about McDonald's and French fries and sodas. I mean, how they made the French fries and all. I mean, he was just so detailed on everything.
Okay.
Because I never thought about it like that. You never really think about, okay, you go to McDonald's, you order it, you get your food, and they put some salt on it. And okay, that's good for me, right?
Right.
Potatoes with salt, that's all I need. But
I don't even
you
think
talk
we
about,
want the potatoes from McDonald's. I think it's the fry salt. There's something in that fry
maybe
salt
it's
that
maybe
keeps
it's
you
a
coming.
salt. I don't know what it is, but everybody eats them, right?
Right.
So, but he started talking about temperatures and type of oil and all this detailed kind of
Wow.
things. And I never thought about McDonald's as a company like that. You just thought of it like, kids go there, we go and eat, and we leave and we're done. But that was kind of because I never worked for, a lot of people came up and they worked in fast food service or whatever. I never did that. So
Okay.
that was kind of my, welcome into that. And but it's from a different perspective. It's from a teacher student perspective. And that just kind of intrigued me. And then I started taking more classes and more classes. Next thing I know, I'm about ready to graduate. So, but
Wow.
along the way, I started taking hotel related classes because I did not want to go into food and beverage. Okay. So remember that I did not want to go into food and beverage. I wanted to do hotel sales specifically. But what
Okay.
changed me is I had another professor by the name of Glenn Voss, Dr. Glenn Voss, who's now the chair of, I want to say Texas A&M's marketing department or something like that. I mean, he has gone so far up there, it's ridiculous. But he was the one that kind of challenged me. And I don't think he did it on purpose, but I was set to go into my first job offer was with the Sheraton in New Orleans.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
As a sales manager, but
Okay.
first of all, I didn't never been outside of California at that point, and darn sure was not going to New Orleans. So, and I wanted to know the entire hotel because I had not worked in a hotel, right?
Okay.
So I needed some hotel experience. So I also had a job offer from Marriott, right? Well, Marriott would take you through their training program where you had to do 3 different disciplines. You did housekeeping, you did front office, and you did restaurant. Okay, so I needed all those things because I wanted to end up in sales, but I wanted to know how every department related to sales or related to each other. And then you get into sales and how do you sell this thing?
Right.
So, and then I told my professor, Glenn Voss, this, and he said, "You're crazy." He said, "You should take that job at the Sheraton." He said, "You're going to die in operations." That's what he said, right? I'm like, "What? Are you serious?" So I took it as a challenge. I later find out later in years that that's not what he meant, but I heard it as, "You're going to die. This is a challenge. I don't think you can do it." Yeah, that's what I heard, right? So
So that
whatever the
inspired
motivation
you.
was, the inspiration, that was my inspiration to go into operations. So that's why I took the job with Marriott, which I had 6 months before I even graduated from school.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so I started in January of blah blah blah, 19 something, and don't worry about that. My first hotel was the Courtyard at El Segundo.
Okay.
Courtyard in El Segundo. So I was a housekeeping manager trainee then. So, you do, I don't know, about 3 months of training or whatever, and then you get your own hotel or own department. So I did that and just kind of started working my way. So I did housekeeping, then I did front office. No, I did housekeeping, food and beverage, front office. And then I end up leaving. So I did my first probably 4 years with Marriott with the Courtyard division. And then I mean, I've told you some stories that I haven't told anyone else, as far as there was a gap between when I left, when I was with Marriott, I left because we moved to Sacramento. Because my Sonia at the time went
And
to law
Sonia is his
school.
beautiful, lovely wife.
Okay, Sonia, my wife,
Yes.
went to law school, right? But she went to law school at UC Davis, which is right outside of Sacramento. And at that time, back in those days, back early 90s, there's only maybe 3 Marriott products total in that area. So I was going to try to transfer over. Well, they didn't have any spots. Southern California, a lot of Marriott people, we moved around. We moved around all the time. There's 50 hotels you can move around to. So you're always with a job, right, for the most part.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but I
Please.
often wondered this. When hotel people that are in the hotel and hospitality industry and they move around a lot, is that encouraged, or is that just something that tends to happen?
That's a great question. Back in the day, it was encouraged, because if you didn't do it, you basically, if another opportunity came up and you didn't take that first one, you may get, overlooked or bypassed or whatever. So it would behoove you if you were mobile. Okay. And that's mobile, not just in Southern California, but within the nation, if you're able to do that, because at that time they were opening up courtyards like crazy. And they needed managers to do it. I mean, that's why you went through the 3 disciplines. You went through, like I said, housekeeping, front office, and then restaurant, because you had to do those 3 disciplines in order to be a general manager.
Gotcha.
So you had to do all those 3 disciplines. So, but yeah, it was encouraged to do that. I mean, you see people's resumes that, they bounced around and things like that. And, to people outside the industry, it was probably frowned upon. And you're like, well, you were here for only, 12 months and you went to another job. Well, like I said, it was with Marriott, it was encouraged that you did do that, because like I said, if you, God forbid, you didn't take something, and then you may be at that same job for another year or whatever. If you look at my career, I mean, I've been to 14 different hotels in, I can't remember the number of years, 25 years, something like that. It averaged about 18 months per job. That's what it averaged to be, about 18 months per gig. But it worked out for me, because I figured out early on that the more moves you made, the more money you were going to make, because, they had this thing called a cost of living increase or whatever, which was like, I don't know, 2 to 3% or something like that. But if you moved a different company to a different hotel, you're getting more money, because, they're going to pay you maybe 8 to 10% more. It just depends. So it came to me, it became a numbers game, but it's always important that you are elevating yourself from one position to another one. So very rarely did I take a lateral move. Like, I was a housekeeping manager here, so I'm gonna be a housekeeping manager over there. No, it had to be a step up before I would do that. But no, to answer your question, no. Then those days it wasn't frowned upon. But the thing that is kind of sucks, if that's a good word to use, is that in sales, if you move around, you kind of just, like, say you started, you had a program that's coming up in 6 months, and then all of a sudden your sales manager, your sales contact leaves, and then someone else comes in, and now you got to recreate all that kind of momentum and everything, and he doesn't know you or she doesn't know you, and you don't know him or her, and then you got to kind of build that whole relationship over again. So it's kind of a bad thing for, like, if you're a salesperson and you happen to leave, because it's not good for the client. But that's that's just how it works. But getting back to what I was saying, as far as my career path, if that's okay, right?
Absolutely, that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for.
So I left for about 2 years to do something else, because I couldn't get a job, in hotels. So I'll just leave that part. I'll just say I left and did something else and then came back. So my first job in Sacramento was at the Sheraton in Rancho Cordova. Now, which is now a Marriott now in Rancho Cordova, which is outside of Sacramento. So I came in as the night manager, right? That was the job that they had. In fact, I was waiting. I kept looking at the paper. Back in those days, you looked at the paper for the ads, right? There was no internet. Well,
you circle it with a big red marker.
Exactly. Yeah. There was no H careers then, back in the early 90s. So, so I found this one position. It was a night manager. I called, sent my resume in, and the GM, who was Ron Berger, he basically hired me after maybe 2 interviews. He said he liked me from day one, and I mean he gave me a shot, because in Sacramento it's real cliquish, it's real tight niche community, and I was not from there. I'm from Southern California, and they don't like a lot of SoCal people, right? Or
It was
NorCal,
that SoCal, NorCal
Yeah,
thing,
yeah, it was
huh?
that. Yeah,
Okay.
it was that kind of thing. They don't want outsiders and this and that. So it was tough to get in, because I applied to a lot of different hotels, but
Okay.
I only got one call back from Mr. Berger, Ron Berger, and I got in there, and I said, you know what, you ain't gonna regret this. And I hate to say it, but I rocked it. You know what I mean? I went from being the night manager to his assistant GM. Still working at it. Then I started adjusting my hours and things like that. But that's where I learned a lot of what I know now, is because of that hotel. From as an assistant general manager, you had to oversee everything, right? You
Right.
oversaw the front office, the bar, the banquets, the cooks in the kitchen and things like that. So I oversaw everything, and I would get involved in dishing up for big events, helping out with ordering supplies if the chef was shorthanded, doing plate ups. I mean, dish ups, where
So
it's
you
kind of like a
touched
conveyor.
everything
I
then,
touched everything.
literally.
And then I had a relationship with the engineer. If the AC went down, I would be on the roof, trying to learn those things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how you learn. I mean, it wasn't my job to do that. I mean, because I had a chief engineer to do it, but
Right.
it makes sense that you have a working knowledge of everything, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
I can
So
remember when I came to one of your properties. I believe it was the Sheraton. Is that correct?
Sheraton and Universal Sheraton, yes.
Universal Sheraton.
My last hotel.
Your last hotel, and you did a site visit with me. And I have to tell you, Russell, I was so impressed. I mean, we've known each other at that point for quite some time, but I was really impressed to see you in your element and to see how well respected you were by everyone, from the valet when I pulled up all the way, I mean, to the housekeeping staff, to everyone that was in the sales and marketing department. You were just really well received, and it really means something, especially as an event planner coming in. You want to know that that person that you have that direct connection to for your meetings and your programs, that you know what, they're going to be well received, because I know if I need something, I can come to you, and I can see that it will happen. And I could definitely see that. And so that was, I don't know if I've ever shared that with you, but it was really impressive to see you in your element and see how you flow amongst everyone. And I see that even when we are at different events, I see how well received you are. So that must speak to your personality and who you are within this industry that you spent well over 25 years in.
Yeah, well over 25. No, thank you. No, thank you for that. I know I don't think you've ever shared that with me, but I do appreciate that. I mean, you take your career and what you do, or your craft, or however you want to put it, you take it serious, and you put in the work. I mean, if it's something that you're passionate about, you have to put in the work, and definitely did that. And part of being a director of sales, or even a general manager, putting in the work is going and seeing and talking to your associates,
Yes.
right? Because if I didn't spend time with them, there was no way that they would receive me like you witnessed, right? Because you have to, it's not all about, okay, well, I need this, you only need them when you need them, right? No, it's not that. I mean, you have to build relationships with people, just like you have to build a relationship with clients, like I build a relationship with you. You have to
Certainly.
build your relationship with your internal clients, which are our employees, or we call them associates or whatever. So, and those things are important. So, I mean, I would, spend an hour a day at least, moving from department to department to say hello. I'm on the floors. I'm checking rooms. I mean, this is as a director of sales and marketing, where, your traditional ones, they don't do that, right? And I'm not afraid to say it, because I know what they do and don't do. So
Call them
that
out,
was
Russell.
never
Call them out. Let them know what they
that
do,
was
what they don't do.
that was never my MO, and I pray to God I don't have to go back to a hotel. But if I have to go back,
They're like,
there would never be my MO. That, I mean, you have to get out, and especially as a general manager, if and a prime example is site inspections. Like, say if you're doing a site inspection,
well,
and I'm the
we've
one.
done site inspections together. So let's talk about our site inspections that we've done together. Tell me how, I mean, you can relate it to that.
don't. We've done. You mean the site inspection we did at the Sheraton?
Yes. No,
Okay.
not at the
What?
Sheraton Universal. Remember at the other company that I was previously associated with? Yes.
Oh,
How
okay. See,
soon we forget.
okay. Well, see, now we're transitioning from me being a hotel person to on the other side. See, I didn't even finish. I didn't finish my career progression yet. You
Okay,
want to
let's
finish that? Can,
progress. Let's
can we
progress
finish
on.
that? I'll do this quickly. So, because I mean, your listeners are. I got them on the edge right now, right? I don't want to let them
They
off.
are literally on the edge.
Yeah. So okay. So and I'm gonna go. I'll go through this quickly. So from Sacramento as an assistant GM, then I left there and went to the Hilton and Warner Center or Woodland Hills, which is Southern California, right outside of Los Angeles.
Right.
That's where I became. I was a night manager again there. There's another story behind that, but that's where I started my sales career.
Okay.
So I was given a book of lists. So this for years I've been trying to get into sales now. Now see, now I'm at a full service hotel now, right?
Okay.
So Courtyard was called a limited service.
Right.
So now the Sheraton in Sacramento and this hotel are now my first full service hotels, right?
Okay.
So now I want to sell this full service hotel. So I finally talked the director of sales and marketing, his name is Tom Torrance, into giving me a shot. So I came in as a junior sales, whatever, and he gives me this book of list. It's just, before you can Google companies' names. Now you can do that, right? But a
Right.
book of list is basically a binder with a whole bunch of companies in your area, right? So he said, here's a book of lists. I said, what do you want me to do with this? Call them and get some business. That's what he said.
Oh, it's like a
that's
phone
it?
book then.
Yeah, that's my
Okay.
training, right? So I went through this thing, which started at the first, and it had names and their phone numbers and their positions. I went through that list, that whole book, to find business, and I finally found some business, and that's how I started, right? Once I got that, I started basically stealing business from other hotels. I mean, Cal State Northridge, CSUN was in our area, and the Marriott was our biggest competition. They were getting all the CSUN business and all this kind of stuff. They got the sports teams, they got all the department meetings, they got all that stuff. So I said, well, how am I going to get that stuff? So I ended up starting to go and camping out at Cal State Northridge and basically knocking on doors and basically having them come for lunch, inviting them for lunch and site tours and things like that, because they didn't know about the Hilton, because the Marriott basically was doing all that for them, right? So, but the Marriott got relaxed, right? So when your competition gets relaxed, that's when you have to crank it up, right? So the Marriott people weren't going to visit anymore because they had the business. So I was hungry, I'm new. So man, by the time I left that hotel, I owned CSUN. Every CSUN piece of business, sports on down, was coming to the Hilton. I don't know what's going on over there now, but then the Hilton owned CSUN. So from there, I went back in operations as a director of operations at a Courtyard, is a 250 room Courtyard in Marina Del Rey. And then I got an opportunity to be a director of sales.
Okay.
With a Courtyard that was going to be a hotel that's going to be reflagged a Courtyard, a hotel that was running at 44%. And then when we became a Marriott Courtyard, it went automatically to 80% overnight. It went from 40% hotel to 80% hotel overnight. Wow. And to this day, that hotel still averages, well, before the whole COVID thing happened, it was averaging like 95% year to date for years. Okay. So from there, Courtyard, I went to a Radisson, which is LAX, which is now the Hyatt. I was the director, the Hyatt LAX, where they had smart meetings before.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was the director of sales and marketing there before it became a Hyatt. It was a Radisson. I was at the Bonaventure.
Let me ask you this, since you brought that up. What did you feel when you went back and saw all of the changes that they highlighted while we were there for the Smart Meetings event?
Insane, because I remember that place when you didn't want anybody to be. I didn't even want to work there. No, I'm joking. It was old. It was showing its age for the
wear and tear.
Because it was built back in the 70s, right? It's probably one of the first hotels on that strip, I think them and then the Marriott, which is still there as well. So they completely gutted that place out and then reconfigured it. Yeah, it is. They did it. They did a great job. So no, I'm proud to go back there and say that I remember before, it was a Hyatt, it was a Radisson, and I was the director of sales there. So, because that was my goal. My goal was to be a director of sales and marketing at a 600 room hotel with 40,000 square feet of meeting space. And I achieved that about a year and a half after I set that goal.
Wow.
And then from there, I went to other hotels, and then I'll just fast forward to, I was a GM at a Sportsman's Lodge Hotel, which is an independent boutique hotel in Studio City. I was a GM for about 13 months. And then my last position was the Sheraton Universal, where I was the director of sales and marketing. And after that, I transitioned to the meeting side. It's something I always wanted to do, meetings and event side, or hotel site selection is what I call it. And that's what I do now. But I do consulting as well, for in the hotel space, social media, branding, things like that for hotels, especially these days now that, hotels have been closed for a while. They need to get out and be rebranded and stay relevant and things like that. So that's kind of that's the space I work in now.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because even when I came to you and I was talking about taking all about the experiences, and not only first of all bringing it to the brand to fruition, but also when we sat down and we spoke, and you've given me so much insight about not only brand but also how to promote yourself. And one of the things that I see you do so well, and I, of course, follow you on all of your social media platforms, but is really putting that information out there, and it's fresh and it's new every single time. Many of you you may have heard this in the intro, but Russell is a radio host. He is on air with Russell of Hotels, which I have had the pleasure of being a guest on twice. The second time that I was on his show, it was really an unveiling of my brand, and he helped me launch that. And I will forever be thankful for that. Tell me about that process, of having people come to your show. What is the premise behind it, and what made you go that direction?
Well, the reason why, that's a great question. I think I may have a great answer for it, but let me
Okay,
think.
bring it.
Um, the reason I was we're leaving 2018, I believe, going into 19, and I was like, well, what can I do because I'm all about your brand, putting your brand out,
Yeah.
and developing brands, right? So I'm like, well, how can I improve, this brand that I've started, this Russell of Hotels? And I remember back in the summer of 2018, I got a call from a guy, Craig Sullivan. Craig Sullivan. He had a radio show in Orange County.
Okay.
And then don't ask me the name of it because I can't even remember that. But he asked me to be on his show, and he found me on LinkedIn, right? And how he found me is that because I post videos. I did a video for the Sheraton and where's that Sheraton at? It's a brand new Sheraton outside of downtown. I can't even think of whatever. Anyway, it's a Sheraton outside of downtown. So it was God, I almost had it, but you had to say something. But anyway, it was outside of downtown, brand new, and they invited me over to do like site and lunch or whatever. So I went and I took some pictures. They didn't ask me to do this, right? But I put those pictures into a video, right? And I posted it on LinkedIn, and I got a lot of hits from it. And one hit came from this Craig Sullivan. So he calls me and says, hey, what's the name of your marketing company? And I just said, Russell. He said, don't you have a PR company or something? I said, no, it's just me. He said, that video that you put, he said it was great. It was phenomenal. So I told him what I did and everything. And he asked me to come on the show and talk, right? So that was in the summer of 2018. So I did that out in Orange County. And after that show went well, all that stuff. And then I started thinking, maybe I can do something like that. It was probably about 3 months later. I said, you know what? Maybe I can do like a podcast or a radio show, something that's on. I wanted to do, his show was only every other week.
Okay.
And I was going to do every other week. But then when I presented it to the radio station, LA Talk Radio, they said, we don't do every other week. You need to do it weekly.
We need you here weekly.
He said, you need to do it weekly because you want to be top of mind. You don't want to, do it every week because you're not going to grow a following or anything like that. So I said, I took his advice, Sam. I took his advice and I said, okay. So I thought of the name, On Air Russell of Hotels, and I said, well, what will be the concept of my show? And it's about hospitality, right? It's about my rise in this industry, if you will. But I always thought, I always thinking that there's a lot of other people that have stories to tell as well. Stories, because there's no two people that got in this industry the same way. Not everyone went to school. That's one thing. And not everyone started as a manager. A lot of people started as bellmen and worked their way up. Or I remember Natalie Finzi, who was on the show, and she was a director of sales of mine. She was a cocktail waitress at the pool. That's how she started, and ended up going into sales and revenue management. And then I ended up hiring her as a director of sales years later, right? So,
Endless
I mean, you never
possibility.
know. Exactly. So this industry is just full of just people that just want to go out there and have enthusiasm and do it and have fun for the most part. There's a lot of work involved. Don't get it twisted. There's a
Certainly.
lot of work involved, but and people, they think, well, it's a glamorous position and this and that. Yeah, okay. You see me when I'm out away from the desk and the office and then the stack of paperwork and all these darn reports that you have to do as
Right.
well, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about what those numbers look like, right? So don't get it twisted that it's all this fun, glamorous. Yeah, most of we, if you're a salesperson, you got to spin it to make it look like it's fun and glamorous, right? But there's
True.
there's some challenges. There's always challenges with every job that you have. So, but that's what the whole premise for the show was, for hospitality professionals to come on, like yourself. If that's meeting planners, if that's hotel people, directors of sales, general managers. I've had influencers, like travel influencers that people don't even know that thing didn't even exist, right? 5, 6, 10 years ago, right? Now there's people that they call them brand managers, they call them content creators, whatever. So I've had those people on the show. Other, like a concierge I had on the show, and she talked about taking care of guests and clients, high end guests, low end, whatever. She talking about things like that, or taking care of people like that. So the show was about, like I said, just people coming in talking about themselves, which is a brand,
Right.
and talking about the brand that they're working for, right? So it's always your brand first, because that's what
Right.
people see, and
For
people
sure.
are always going to buy you before they buy the product that you're actually selling. Okay, so that's some of the things. So it was just another way to get over that hump, so people could see you and you stay relevant and things like that.
That's what I really appreciate about you. You inspire me through your ability to just reinvent and rebrand yourself and even others. I mean, I'm a representative of that. And just the encouragement and the guidance that you've given me through this whole process has been immeasurable. And I appreciate it. Last week on my inaugural show, I had Dr. Hardy Shepherd that was on, and she spoke about, um, lifting as we climb. And you mentioned like all of the different positions that you've held in the hospitality industry, from, and I don't even want to say, I'll say this, from in the entry level positions all the way up to being a GM. And so, a lot of times when you think of hotels and hotel space, when you think about branding, what that particular brand is synonymous with. Like I think about some of the events that I've done that's been at the Four Seasons, they're synonymous for their brand and their hospitality and the level of service. And one of the things that I think will be a challenge to me, which I wholeheartedly accept, is just the direction that my brand is going to go in, if you will, and where I want to take my brand, and the different things that I can do in this space. And even from your radio show that I've been a guest on to, you gave me my first voiceover job. Um, you know, um, you must check out Russell's show. He is on every Tuesday on LA Talk Radio, live, as well as on Facebook Live, on air with Russell of Hotels, Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But Russell, we joke around a lot, but I really feel like he saw something in me, or saw something that I could potentially explore. And so he reached out to me when he was launching his radio show and asked me would I do his intro and outro for his radio show. And I was like, at first I was really excited. I was thinking, yeah, I can do that. And then I was thinking, this is a lot more difficult. And when you're working for something, so for someone, and this is their baby, and they're wanting to put, this man is, he's hard. He's take no prisoner. We want this to be, he wanted a certain feeling coming in. And I understand that. I'm the same way about my podcast. So with that being said, it gave me a renewed respect for the product that you're putting out or the brand that you're representing. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like when you're coming up with these new ideas that involve Russell and Russell of Hotels, and even when you're engaging with clients like myself, what is it? What's that niche that you're?
I wish I knew. I wish I had one. I mean, if you're talking about I'm not sure what you're even asking me.
Wait a minute.
What
Let me think. Am I sure what I even asked?
What are you even asking me? What's my,
what's
like,
your niche?
what's my niche? And doing the radio show or just in general?
In general, because I mean, your radio show is one facet of what you do.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. So let me just get back to this. When I was going to start the radio show, and then when I asked Cheryl to do the voiceover work, it was an experience. I mean, we're up at, between 10, midnight, 1 o'clock, whatever, going back and forth over this recordings, because she would do the recording and she would, text it to me and I would listen to it. And because I wrote the script.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I didn't like this. I didn't like certain things. Your voice inflection. I mean, those things. I never thought about that at all, right? Who would even think? I thought it was something easy. I thought this whole process would be easy. But I always remember when my dad used to tell me, he said, if it's worthwhile, anything that's worthwhile is not easy.
True statement.
Anything that's easy is not worthwhile. So I always remember that. And I'm like, okay, let me just stick to it and whatever. And then because before I asked Cheryl, there's professionals, and I mean, I look at Cheryl as being a professional voiceover. I mean, she has her voice was something that I wanted, but I went through, I think, what is it? Fiverr. Fiverr has people that will do it as well. Fiverr.com if you have the app or whatever.
Yes.
But I didn't like any of the people that I had. I mean, I probably listened to 3 or 4 different voices. And I said, you know what? I don't like either one of the voices. And all of a sudden you popped up. I'm like, Cheryl has this kind of different kind of voice, unique. It's soft, it's soothing, it's whatever.
So and nice. Thank you.
No, seriously, I have to say it. It's your show, so I have to say something nice, right? So I ended up going with her, and it just made things a lot easier because she had just as much passion on doing it as I had, wanting this finished project to put on my show. I mean, I was so happy to send this recording to Sam, who was the owner of the LA Talk Radio, to put it on, because he could have done the intro and the exit. But I was like, no, I'm gonna do my own. And then he's like, oh, this is great. I mean, and I don't think I'll change it. I won't change it for a while. So, and if I do change it, it's gonna be, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be your voice again. But getting back to your original question on what you asked as far as what's my niche, you know what? I wish I knew exactly what it was, because I mean, of course, I'm doing a radio show, right? I mean, and it's important. And what I meant by that, it is important that we, or anyone, people listening or whatever, don't get pigeonholed into one thing. Because if you start saying this is what I'm going to do, and then when something like this happens, this whole COVID thing happens, and then we start scrambling and things like that. I mean, we have to pivot ourselves. And a lot of people don't like that word because everybody's using it, right? But it's basically what it is. It's either you're going to reinvent yourself, which means you're going to get totally out of the game that you're in and go to another game, or you're going to pivot within what you're doing. So being, like an entrepreneur that I like to call myself, I mean, I can dabble in, different things. But everything stems from the hospitality industry. But I mean, I can, if you're in sales, you can sell anything, right? It's just all about given the opportunity to do it, right? But I'm like, okay, so I do the radio show. So I also do social media,
Yeah.
right, for hotels, for smaller. I started off doing smaller boutique hotels. I do videos for them. Anything to brand them, to make their brand relevant, to stay out there on top or whatever. I mean, if you look at some of the video, and I look at some of the stuff that hotels put out, and with the stuff that I put out, and I mean, I hate to say it, my stuff looks better than theirs. Okay, so, but because I put the time in it, and I know exactly what's gonna get you more followers, get you more
Do you feel like
viewers.
your experience on both sides of the coin have definitely helped you recognize what someone that's a planner is looking for, as well as someone who's trying to bring business in?
Say that again.
Okay, let me think about that. So do you think you're you're so much fun. We're really being well behaved today, are we not? Russell and I have this banter whenever we see each other or talk to each other, which is almost a couple of times a week. We have this banter where we go back and forth. But so I guess in essence, what I'm trying to say is, do you think your experience being on the hotel side as well, or what we would say on the supplier side as well as the buyer side, has really helped you hone in on has helped you hone in on what is necessary when you're promoting a brand or a hotel?
Okay.
Is
See,
that
you
better?
explained that. You explained that totally different than the first time. You just threw it out there. I'm like, what the heck is she saying? What is she asking me? I'm looking around. But yeah, I mean, being on both sides of the story, so to speak, both sides of the industry as a hotelier, then transitioning to being a meeting planner, you're dealing with two different brands, right? You're dealing with the brand. I'll just use the Sheraton. I was dealing with the Sheraton and their brand and things you had to do to promote them.
Right.
And I always look at, what was the budget for that? Because everybody thinks because your name is Sheraton that you got this huge, or Marriott, that you got this huge budget behind you to do whatever the heck you wanted to do.
Right.
That's not always the case, because you got to remember the hotels that hotel was a franchise hotel, right? It wasn't a corporate hotel. So corporate hotels have more money to spend on marketing and branding and things like that, right? That's not given to you by the company that's on the sign, right? They're not giving you anything. You have to spend that yourself. So I had to be creative about how I did certain things. And it's funny that you should mention it, because I mean, I'm big on social media, right? But you get a lot of GMs, the older GMs, they don't know what the heck social media is. They don't know how to use it. They think because you post something, you're supposed to get business from it like instantly. That's not what it's about. It's about, are you selling or are you putting your brand out there? Because that's two totally different things, right?
Gotcha.
So in trying to explain that to some GMs is like, and that's probably pretty much the reason why I left where I was, because it was just frustrating to try to get that message across to people that had no idea what the heck social media was and how it can help you. And when you try to explain it, they still don't know. You got deer in the headlights, like, okay, well, what about how much money are we going to make from that? Okay, so fast forward to going to the other side as a meeting planner and having to create your own brand. And at that point, you can do whatever you need to do, right? So if I need to do the radio show, I can do it. As long as I have the money to do it, I can do it, right? Or if I want to post things, about meetings or hotels, or put videos out, that stuff, it did help me, because the transition was easier leaving a hotel to doing, being a meeting planner or whatever, because I was so fed up and frustrated with the crap that was going on and when you're working for somebody. But when you start working for yourself, you can be as creative as you want to be. You can put things out. You're talking for yourself. I don't have to be, not that I'm not PC now. I mean, you still have to be professional. You still have to do all those things. Okay, I saw that. You still have to be all those things, but just remember, you're doing this for yourself, right? And the more people to see stuff, the better. So now that's helped me now that I'm like I'm at the top. I mean, at the top, meaning I'm in a helicopter looking down on the view, right? So now I can see the mistakes I was making, say social media or whatever, and I capitalize on those mistakes, and I do things a lot better now. Video, I do more video. Before you're doing a lot more pictures, like still pictures or whatever. Video has more, you get more traction from video, but it has to be good video. It can't just be,
Engaging.
it has to be engaging, exactly. And that's what you want. You want in social media, the key is you want them to engage with what you're putting out, right? And that's some things that I do. And then that's attracting hotels. They see what I put out and they say, well, hey, you're putting this stuff out and I know you're getting a lot of responses because I'm responding to it. So can you do that for me? What can you put together, a program or whatever to help our hotel out, help our brand out? In fact, I just got a call last week from a hotel, and they need some help because right now you're coming out of the whole COVID thing. They're trying to reopen, and they haven't had any marketing done in the last 3 months. So they want to get things out. They want to ramp up. They want to put out. They're doing things for the drive market, or the drive market is basically 2 hours from like LA to like Santa Barbara, whatever. So you're trying to appeal to those people to come to LA. And stay in their hotel, leisure business. So they're trying to grow their leisure market. So they asked me, hey, can I do their social media for them? Like,
Let me ask you,
okay, that's what I do.
when you do their social media for them, do you come up with the content or do they provide you with some guidelines behind what they're looking? Because you mentioned COVID, and one of the things that I'm currently I have to address, and even when I'm bringing back recommendations to my executive leadership team, it's, what are we doing in the wake of COVID? How are the processes different? What will that look like when from the time that you arrive, let's say at a hotel, to the check-in process, to going to your room, and how does that look when you're trying to relay those messages to, I guess in that marketing material that you're putting out?
Yeah, well, the things that I'll be doing is just basically putting their brand back out there, or keeping them relevant, or putting things that, like, say they have an idea for appealing to the drive market. My job is just to come up with something in video form to go along with that message. Now, as far as any new procedures or policies and things like that, those should be on their websites. And if you look at most hotels, at least the reputable brands, and I'm saying that, Marriott's or whatever, I'm sure most hotels are doing something. It's important that they put things on their website for different changes. We don't have valet parking anymore, or when our restaurant is not currently open, or our gym is open, but we're limited to the first 10 people. You have to sign in on a sign-in sheet. I mean, there's things like that need to be on their website, because if you start putting that stuff on like postings and things like that, you're going to miss something. Because remember, on a postings, everybody, they don't read everything on a posting, right? You want something that's quick, for the most part, unless it's a video. If it's a long video and the GM is talking about, all these changes and things like that, well, that's great too. But most of the stuff that you're going to put out is quick hitting stuff that you want to put the brand out. Oh, who's putting this out? Okay, the Russell of Hotels is putting this out, right? The Russell of Hotels Hotel is putting this out. So you'll know who the brand is, right? And what they're talking about, if that's advertising for 4th of July or whatever. So that's more what I'll be doing, is more staying relevant, because, you need to be posting, 3-4 times a week, if not daily. All right. Because I go on rants where I post daily, several times a day. It just depends on what's going on in my life. I mean, unfortunately, I've had some situations that have happened, personal things that have happened the last 2 weeks, and I haven't been able to post for my own brand consistently. But normally, it's every day, several times a day, on several different platforms.
And I know that you talked to me about that today, because you were asking me about information of today.
Exactly. And those things are important. You have to do that. You have to make sure you stay top of mind, because if you don't, someone else is going to come in there and they'll be top of mind.
Absolutely. Just because you mentioned that, I know today when we were speaking and we were talking about promoting this episode of All About the Experiences, it was really important. You were like, well, did you tag me in this? Did you post it here? Did you post it there? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And then I had to recheck, but I'm glad that you asked me that, because it shows not only, and you correct me if I'm wrong, just the connectivity there, the tie-in, and also the consistency across the board for branding purposes. I know that sometimes when I post to Facebook, it will be similar to what I post to Instagram, but I recognize that even though these are owned by the same entity, if you will, it's definitely different on either side, as opposed to how I post when I'm on Twitter, because it has to be a little bit more abbreviated, and then also to LinkedIn or Snapchat for my millennials and things of that nature. I mean, everybody's on there, but I do it for the filters. I'm not gonna lie. Make great pictures. When I've been in a bind, this is just a little hack. When I've been in a bind and I needed a headshot for an event, or if I was sitting on a panel and I needed something that was updated, and and I'm just going to leave this little open here, that I change my style quite often. I use Snapchat, take a photo, and then I'll use that to then in turn turn in for that headshot. Oh, okay, nothing, no bites there. Awesome. Go right ahead, Russell.
I don't know why you'd even open it up for me, but for people that don't know, have been to a conference with Cheryl, people, you see Cheryl with long hair at the morning events, and then you come for lunch, her hair is probably shoulder length. You come for dinner and it's really short. It's whatever. It's like Halle Berry. You know what I mean? It's
I'll
just
take Halle Berry.
yeah. I mean, I'm saying her hair. I'm saying her hair. Okay. So, but yeah, Cheryl and it's funny how she just opened this up for me, because I wasn't going to say anything. But yeah, Cheryl definitely has a unique style about her, right? And you definitely know her, and she makes she has no qualms about it. I mean, this is her. And she puts it out there. I mean, she looks good doing it. I mean, don't get me wrong, but you see Cheryl with her hair like this, and 20 minutes from now after the show, she may call me, and she may not have any hair. You know what I mean? So
there is hair under here, okay? There is hair under here.
Or it could be blonde, it could be red,
good under here.
purple,
Let me tell you,
it could
she
be
is
blue.
Good.
So yeah, but no, she definitely has a unique style, and I always tease her that I always ask about the what I call it, the TOH.
And what does TOH stand for?
TOH stands for trunk of hair. Okay, because when she travels, she has a separate trunk with all this hair in it. I'm like, what the heck? Because I saw her one day. I've come in. It may have been at Smart Meetings. I'm not sure. It could have been at Smart Meetings, or because we've done shows before. I mean, we've been to Canada.
It was destination. Yes.
We've been everywhere together. So, so I see her coming in, and the bellman has like 5 things, and the show's only 3 days. I'm like, why do you have 5 separate, pieces of luggage? And one is like a trunk, right? I said, what is that? And she whispers to me, because she didn't want everyone to hear. She comes over to me and says, that's my hair. Like, what? It was padlocked. It had all this stuff on it. You couldn't just go in. And she had like 3 locks to get into it. So it was very important to her that she kept this under lock and key. But she travels with a trunk of hair, and I just abbreviate it TOH. You know what I mean? That's what I say.
This is why I say that Russell is also a comedian, and I love it, and I'm here for it. And it makes me happy. I have to honestly say, he inspires me to do that, because there have been times that we've been at a 3-day-long conference, and I switch it up. And I think it's important, because it lets you know how much you have really had an impact on someone if they can remember you, other than this through facial recognition. I'm just, switching it up.
I mean, and it all ties back. I mean, and no, I'm trying to be funny about it, of course.
No, it's all
but it all ties back to your brand, okay? Absolutely. And that's your brand, all about the experience, right? So that's what it ties back to. So if that's
I'm blonde
what you
today.
are, Exactly. If that's what you are, if that's what you're about, you need to embody that and be about it, right? Because some
Certainly.
people will, and we know that you're not fake, because there's a lot of fake brands out there. Don't get me wrong. People they say they're one way, and then you know them on a personal level. Like, no, he's not really like that. He's a jerk, like, whatever. But no, Cheryl, what you see is what you get. Her brand is out there, and I'm just proud that I'm part of I got to be, part of the journey. I'm not happy that I was guest number 2, but that's okay. I mean, I should have been number 1, but that's okay. I mean, but as long as I got on the show, that's all that matters.
What
But
I
no, I
love
agree.
about this, Russell, is the first thing that you said to me when I told you about this latest venture was, you know, what's your niche? What are you going to do? What are you going to talk about? And you challenged me. Russell was like, what does your tagline mean? I said this last week. You're like, what's your tagline mean? What is all about the experiences? And even though I may internally know what this is and what I'm trying to convey, I need to make sure that everyone else understands that. So you made mention to just being off, and this is something that I always gravitate to, being your most authentic self. So with that being said, in order to kind of share with people kind of who Russell is as a person, Russell the man, not Russell of Hotels, not on air with on air with Russell of Hotels, but who is Russell? So I like to play this little game, okay?
Oh
And
God.
it's much like the Actor Studio. I did this last week with Dr. Pamela Hardy Shepherd. But what I want to do is kind of ask you some quick fire questions. Are you down? Are you here for it?
I don't have a choice, do I?
No, this is my show. So
Okay, well then I don't have a choice.
say
Shoot
that. I
on.
love it.
Shoot on.
Okay. So, what's your favorite word?
What's my favorite word? Is that is
Yeah.
that is that part of it?
I was attempting to be funny like you. And I was giving a
Well,
little
okay.
too
Well, keep your
short,
keep
but
keep your keep your day job,
oh,
okay, and just do the just ask the questions. What'd you
okay.
say? What's my favorite
I'm
word?
sorry. What is your favorite word that you gravitate and you like to utilize?
Whatever.
Yeah, you do say that quite a bit. Okay. So the other
Whatever.
thing is, I want to ask this because many people may not know this, but Russell is a vegan.
Girl.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to ask you, what is your favorite food? I know that you're a vegan and you're always in search of non-meat eats. What would be your favorite non-meat eat?
Today, it changes daily.
Mm.
Depends on what the last thing I had. A jackfruit. Okay, so jackfruit is a fruit.
Right,
You can get it from we get it from Trader Joe's. Comes in a can,
right.
and it has the consistency of pork, like a pulled pork. So if you can pull it together with a fork or your hands or whatever, and it looks like pork. So I cook it like that. You can put barbecue sauce on it. It can be like pulled pork sandwiches, or you can put it in I just had it from a restaurant the other day. There's a restaurant, Jamaican restaurant in Inglewood, where they do jerk jackfruit, and
Be
it's
careful
served
how
with
you say
rice and
that
peas.
real fast.
Jerk jackfruit, yeah, I can't say it more than two
Yeah.
times. But yeah, but it's phenomenal because they put this jerk sauce or seasoning on it, and they serve it with the traditional rice and peas and the plantains and some type of cabbage or whatever. I mean, it is delicious, right? So that's the only thing I eat from that place. They have like 3 vegan items, and that's what I get consistently. So we order food every probably Saturday night, and I always try to different vegan restaurants, but it always comes back to that one. But yeah,
Sure.
jackfruit is one thing that I eat a lot of, and I
Okay.
cook myself as well.
Right.
But people are starting to make more like cauliflower wings.
Yeah.
They
I've
have
seen
like buffalo cauliflower. I love that. Riced cauliflower, and then you can mix it with other things.
that.
I eat a lot of tofu. In fact, today or last week, I think I may have told you. I don't know if I told you. I told some people like, "Oh, that sounds nasty," but it's tofu tuna.
Oh yeah, we had this conversation.
Okay, yeah, it was you. See,
Yeah,
because
it was
based
me.
on that look, it was you. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's tofu tuna. Can I tell you how?
please.
Can I give you the quick
Please,
rundown?
I'm going to do a little survey at the end of this so people can weigh in on this, but go right ahead.
Okay, so it's tofu tuna. So okay, so take a brick of tofu, right? I season it on all whatever sides, and I bake it in the oven for about at 450 for about, I don't know, say 20 minutes, just enough to get kind of a crust on it. And then I dice it up. So it's firm, right? You can get firm tofu, but the tofu I used the other day was not firm. So I wanted to firm it up. So I baked it. And I think I was still, even if it was firm, I still would have seasoned it and baked it for a little while. So for like 20 minutes and you dice it up, throw it in a bowl with diced onions. I use red onions, celery if you have that, relish, and vegan mayonnaise. Okay, you mix it all together, and I season it, with season. So you got to have some Lawry's, right? I use Lawry's, okay,
Flowers.
some damn Lawry's. So I use that, and I let it chill for a little while, just kind of set up for a little while, and then you put it on bread, just like you would do tuna, right? And I'm sorry, I missed something. Nori. You have to put, nori for
Because
the,
for the
it,
seafoody
it,
taste.
it has it has like a fishy flavor, a fishy taste to it, right? So nori is what they use for sushi, right?
Yeah,
You roll up sushi in there. So it's seaweed basically. So
yeah.
it's seaweed paper. So you can either crumble it up, or I dice that up too, throw that in there, and it's based on how how you want the taste. You want more fishy or less fishy, however you want to do it. But you put it in there, mix it all together, and then put it on your sandwich, and it's grub. Okay, it's hashtag non-meat eats, hashtag grub. Okay, so yeah, so no, it's good. So being a vegan, I've been a vegan now for about 18 months. Now I was a vegetarian for about 12 years. Okay, and I wanted to see if I could kind of take it to the next level. I wanted to pivot. Let me pivot and see if I can.
You are very driven. Let me tell you, whether it's
Yeah,
your
yeah.
career or your dietary,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
you're
So when
doing.
it comes to food, I don't be messing around. Okay, so yeah, so I do that, and and try that. Try that, and tell me if it doesn't taste
I
like
will make sure that I post
similar
that
to tuna,
recipe. Yeah.
similar to real tuna. Okay, and I don't miss this because someone's gonna ask or someone's gonna wonder, do I miss meat? No, I don't miss meat. I still cook things for my family because everyone does not. They didn't adopt my diet habits. Okay, but it's not a diet. It's a lifestyle. Okay,
Lifestyle.
it's
I
it's
remember
it's a
you
live
saying
it instead of a diet. I'm not dying, right? It's a live it because I want to live longer. It's a live it. So remember that. Okay, so it's not a
that.
diet.
Did you just
It's
make
a
that up?
live it. It's a live it.
Okay.
Live it. Boom.
See,
Pow.
I'm looking at the time and we
Drop the mic.
mic dropped. Okay. We're going to wind down,
Oh,
but
is this only an hour show? Oh, okay. I thought we're going for 90 minutes. What is that it?
you only give me an hour on your platform.
Well, okay. That's a radio show versus a podcast. My show, just so the people know, my show is a live radio show that becomes a podcast.
Mhm.
Okay. Podcast is a pre-recorded show. This is a pre-recorded show. Just so you guys know, today's Thursday. It's not Friday. Okay.
Hey, hey, okay, hey. It's Friday somewhere in the universe, okay? Let's just say this. See what happens when you bring people on, they don't know how to behave. I'm just gonna say that. This has been absolutely wonderful, Russell. You know I absolutely adore you. I want to thank you for being my guest today. I also want to thank you for sharing so many insights, whether they were asked or not, and really just being that go-to person in the hospitality industry. And I really enjoyed highlighting not only you, but your company, Russell of Hotels, and all the different ventures that you do with On Air with Russell of Hotels. And you have been a wonderful source for me to tap into, and you've mentored me through my podcast that's pre-recorded on Thursday. Your support has really been immeasurable. I can always depend on you for great advice and jokes, that whether I want them or not. And all jokes aside, as you guys can see, Russell is a ball of fun. But it's been great to partner with you. professionally, you have the innate ability to really tune in and hear your clients, and you've made me look like a rock star with my organization. So I really appreciate that. And just your mentorship through this meeting and event space has been just fantastic. I've learned a lot, and I learned a lot not only by asking you questions, but seeing how you operate. And as my listeners here can hear you, you have a wealth of knowledge that comes along with a great deal of experience. And so I tap into that, and I'm fortunate not only to have you as my mentor, but definitely as my friend. So in closing, I always like to ask my guests, is there anything that you would like to share before we close out today?
Whew, wow, that was a mouthful right there. I don't think I have anything to say after that. But no, I just want to thank you so much for allowing me to come on and tell a little bit of my story. One thing I did not, and I hate to say this now, but I didn't complete because you want to know what my niche was. Okay, I don't think people even know what the heck I even do. Okay, so I do have I do have a radio
you
show.
You clown around with people all the time
I do clown
on their
around,
show.
right? Exactly. I do have a radio show. That's one thing. So I also do hotel site selection, which that's where I work with Cheryl, because she's a meeting planner for her organization. But I'm a hotel site selection person. So I assist her so she can concentrate on the ins and outs of the meeting. I help her find the sites, the locations for her meetings, right? If that's at a hotel, if that's at a just meeting space, on wherever it is, that's what I do. And then also I assist hotels and other organizations. So I don't want people to think that I'm pigeonholed into just doing social media things for hotels. That's my sweet spot because that is my background, but I do this stuff for everyone. So anyone that wants, advice on how to do, how to post things and when you should post it and where you should post it, because all platforms are different, right? So they all have different, what are those things called? The back of the, what is it called? I can't think of what it's called. But anyway, there's different ways to post on different platforms. So I just wanted to, I just wanted to say that. But thank you so much, Cheryl, for allowing me to be on and to be silly, to be myself. Because, on my show, when I'm the host, I can't do this, right? I can't, act up. I can't, really, I'd never really talked about food like that on my show. I post a lot of things about food, but I've never really discussed that. But thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show, although it is number 2. It would have hit me right here in my heart if it was like if I was number 1. But you know what? I'll take number 2 for the doctor that was on last week. So there there you go. But no, that's it, Cheryl. I don't want to say anything else. But I do appreciate you giving me the opportunity. And you mentioned, and I have to say this before I get off. Someone gave me a chance and someone listened to me, right? So how you people always say, you want to pay it forward or whatever. And it's not just lip service for me. If people ask for help, I'm gonna do whatever I can to assist those people, right? So that's what I'm about. I've always been about that. But it's funny how so few people will take advantage of that, some knowledge that you may have, or maybe a different way of doing things or whatever, or just some advice or somebody just to talk to. And they say, hey, I was just thinking about this. What do you think about that? My dad would do that for me, or other people that would do that for me. Like, we have a common friend, Amani Roberts. I can bounce things off of him. Craig Sullivan, after I was on his show, I asked for advice before I did my show. Right. I wanted to let him know that I respected and I appreciated what he did for me. And I did the same thing with Amani. So I asked him, because Amani has a show that he's had 145 podcasts. So, you got to draw from those people, right?
Absolutely.
So, because they've been there before. And I appreciate you coming to me and asking me those things. And hopefully, because someone's going to come to you and ask you the same thing. So my only advice to you is that continue to do what you do and give the advice, where it's warranted.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for joining me today. And I just want to encourage everyone to tune in to Russell's radio show on air with Russell Hotels every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that's on LA Talk Live.
LATalkRadio.com.
Oh, there you go. And you can
Yes.
also find all things Russell
Yeah,
on his website, russellofhotels.com.
yes.
And in parting, I just want to say, live the most purposeful, authentic life that you can, and just let it be all about the experiences. Until next Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll see you there. And as Russell and I do whenever we're on the phone and we're FaceTiming,
Peace.
peace.